in a sense, I find my approach to blending too to be very Zen, in that it's like Zen archery, or the way of the sword, or Bushido and such. It's you spend a lot of time in the physical aspect of it, so that's like a lot of years nosing and practicing and blending until you get to a point. I feel like all my best blends are kind of done with, as they talk about no mind and Zen, and where I feel like it's not me doing the blend. It's I don't mean to sound woo woo or anything, but it's like something working through me. And
round out on is going back to the no mind and the way when a blend is done, right? And you mentioned Zen archery, and there's the act of knocking the arrow, there's the tensile act of pulling back, creating potential energy, and during that, you really don't know, like a good archer, as far as I know, not being one myself, doesn't have a point where they go, finger, let go, boing. Like it's a drawing back until the bow releases itself using the energy created. So I don't know if that's a good metaphor.
Oh, it is.
Okay,
yeah.
how does that take place in a flavor context?
There are times when I know something is ready, and I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Yeah, I think I mentioned I've been teaching courses on blending and such, and fault issues for a long time.
My favorite class. Yeah. Nancy's nosing for faults. If you want to jump scare around every distiller process point,
the nasty bits. That it's oh God, where was I going with that? That I teach theory and such, but I find that and that this I hope this kind of speaks to what you're saying. How do you know that moment to let go? It's that moment of having done it so many times that that's when your intuition starts to step in, and that something is the right time. And sometimes I try and articulate that, but sometimes I don't know how well I really can. But because when it comes through your intuition, it's hard to articulate that, or the moment that you start to intellectualize it is the moment. So for example,
yes,
getting back to this, I actually think I could have taken this out of the cask just a little earlier, because I think I think I should have done it at that moment when I felt like it's ready, but I didn't. Because my intellectual mind thought, oh, no, I think I want to, but I just knew, like, say a month or so before that, this is the time. But then I, the discursive thought, thinking and intellect kind of overrid that. No, I think it's, it hasn't been that long, and, people will be critical and such. But really, it told me when it was ready, and I overrid it or overrode that, and I think to be. I mean, I think it's beautiful, I have to admit, I think I could have taken it out just a little earlier, because it was a lot happened within that month. It was kind of going into spring, heating up.
Things were changing
very quickly.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of, I, hope that kind of speaks to, when, that moment to let go, or, when something is ready, sometimes you just know, or it tells you, or you just kind of have to empty your mind, I guess is a good way to put it.
Well, what you were describing about, like, thinking about, like, well, what will other people think? Like, you're describing monkey mind, right? Like, your other people's voices are coming in, clouding your judgment. Again, we're talking about, like, the bad kind of contingency, right? The contingency that hasn't happened yet, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that caused you to do something that maybe now you wouldn't have done in hindsight. I think everybody listening or watching will understand what monkey mind is, because let's face it, that's a part of our lives. You know, we're living in a bustling world. I'm curious if there's a feeling that you have in your body, or like you mentioned an emptying of your mind, right? Is there a feeling that you get, or is there like it would be a little strange to like anthropomorphize this and actually think that the whiskey's talking to you, right? We don't want to make, but is there a way that you feel like when in that moment where you were like, the whiskey was telling me it was ready? Like, is there a way you feel? Do you feel relaxed? Do you feel excited?
I feel like it sounds weird. I start to buzz. I mean, I actually start to buzz when I know something is like, wow, this is, and that's like when I think my best work is happened, I get excited, and I can, just feel like energy moving through my body. And it's like but I kind of have to be in a relaxed state to, when I start intellectualizing too much, and I have a tendency to do that because I'm kind of nerdy and intellectual anyway. But when
you like boats.
I yes.
Come on, anybody who likes boats gets in under the hood,
Exactly, boats and guitars. But yeah, it is kind of when you've practiced something over and over, and you just kind of relax your mind, and that's always when I think the best work happens, that it's kind of flowing through you. I've heard so many musicians and artists talk about this, how, I think Michelangelo talked about how the granite was, he was just removing the pieces that shouldn't be there, and that the sculpture was already there. But he was just removing things, and he didn't see it as like, I'm creating this, like putting ego into it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying he didn't have any ego at all, but I mean, I know I do, sometimes, but times when I kind of take that element out, or the ego,
right,
and go stand in the corner or whatever, it goes away. Right. Then that's really when the magic happens, when you empty your mind, or as close as you can get to that.
Yeah. Well, you in that moment, I mean, if you think about what that kind of means, if you're emptying your mind, you're taking all the other junk out of there, and the other people's voices and the expectations and how much you're getting paid for this, and the awards that you could win for it. Really, if you're emptying all that out, really it's you, the person, and then you're standing in with a representation of basically just nature.
Yes.
And
right.
That's it's both powerful and concentrated, and like it's got to be a little bit psychedelic if you can really empty it, and just like, and so I feel like that buzzing's a really wonderful way to kind of encapsulate that. And I knew the moment that you said that you dialed up your employers at midnight to tell them this crazy idea about a cigar blend, I knew that there was probably some physical, some embodied sense that you get when you're close.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was like really buzzing that night. I couldn't sleep that night, because I felt like I had been given something profound, and I know that, it was like it was given to me, not that it came, that it's me. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's, like I knew that it felt like a gift to kind of be given that,
right,
idea. And
I really like a quote by John Stuart Mill, which is, I would not give a fig for the simplicity on this side of complexity, but for the simplicity on the other side of complexity, I would give everything.
Everything.
And maybe that's a law school. Maybe you came across that in law school. He was a judge.
Yeah. Yeah. That's.
And based on what you're describing, I think one thing that sort of irritates me is when people will put out a product, and I know people do this because I've tasted these products at wonderful judging competitions like ADI here and others, and I've actually heard people, seen people work and heard people speak in ways that make me understand that this is how they operate, which is that, well, I've decided I'm a blender. I'm going to make a blend, and whatever I blend is my art. Then there's also people like the people you're working with who are deep in the science of it, right? The science of humidity, the science of esterification, the science of cask management, the science of fermentation, distillation. There's a ton of science, right?
Tons, absolutely.
And so almost what you're describing with this sort of buzzing feeling that comes after you've emptied out all of the other stuff is the art on the other side of science, not the art on this side of science, right? We're not talking crayon scribbles on the fridge.
Right.
We're talking about the art that can only come after that long apprenticeship and really being in the trenches of the science and the technical and logistical components of it. And so I guess this is where I wanted to end, because I get suspicious of someone who says, oh, I just know. And, oh, this is my art. Because,
I agree.
Because if we all did that, we would be a room full of naked emperors complimenting each other's clothes, right? Just to be nice. But we're not. It's you and me. We're in this room with these incredible whiskeys that are a product of a lot of science and a lot of technical know-how. And yet we're still talking about art. So what I'm glad that hopefully you'll agree is I think we're talking about the art on the other side of science.
Yes. I